Welcome to the Quick Review. My name is Catherine Corder.
And I'm Alejandro Jimenez.
And today, our objective is the Trail of Tears.
The Trail of Tears lasted from 1830 to 1839. The president of that time was Andrew Jackson.
Now let's just say Andrew Jackson wasn't that good of a president, because during his time in office, he passed the Indian Removal Act of 1830.
The Indian Removal Act was ratified on May 28, 1830. This allowed the president to negotiate with Indian tribes so that they could take their land.
The Indian Removal Act contributed to the removal of 5 nations of Indians, including the Choctaw,
The Creek,
the Seminole,
the Chickasaw.
and the Cherokee.
Now let's get started with the first nation that was moved in 1831.
That was the Choctaw. The Choctaw are located in Mississippi. Some of them stayed when they were cheated out of resources and forced to move. Now the second nation moved in 1832 was the Seminoles.
The Seminoles were located in Florida. The treaty that they signed with the United States was called the Treaty of Fort Gibson in 1834. This allowed the president to take their land, but not all the Seminoles were agreed to that. So some did stay and rebel. One of these famous rebellions was called Dave's Battle, or Massacre. This was when the Seminoles ambushed the United States troops in Fort King Road. The third relocated nation was in 1834, which were the Creeks.
The Creeks signed the Indian Springs Treaty, which gave the military 22 million acres, which were located in Georgia and central Alabama. The next relocated tribe was the Chickasaw in 1837.
The Chickasaw were located in Mississippi. Their original treaty was for them to leave their land, but receive the same amount of land. As we all know, this did not happen, and they ended up having to share their land with other tribes. So the last nation relocated in 1834 were the Cherokee.
The Cherokee fought non-violently and peacefully through the legal war. The first case that they took to war was Cherokee Nation versus Georgia in 1831, which didn't work at all. The second one was Worcester versus Georgia in 1832, which they won by Judge John Marshall's, but Jackson saw it as nothing. So he could not accept it and sent the U.S. Army to push them out. During the Trail of Tears, many died from
cold nights, hypothermia, dehydration, malnutrition, and starvation. Winter's meals that they received were 2 cups of hot water, cornbread, and 1 turnip.
The military men would torture them and kill deer right in front of them during the summer, not save anything, and not leave anything for the tribe. Approximately 15,000 set out from each group, and 46,000 Indians were relocated in total. 7,000 soldiers were sent to move them.
Approximately 4,000 Cherokees died during the trail, and an estimate of 11,000 survived.
Approximately 3,500 Creeks died, which left 11,500 survived. Approximately 3,000 died from the Chickasaw, and the Seminole, which left 12,000 surviving.
The Chickasaw were the only tribe that received financial compensation.
The only group known today is the Cherokee, because during their time, they did those cases. One of the cases that Jackson was so pissed off about, when he sent that army out for them, he decided to take them on a long path, a 2,200 miles, 3,500 kilometer path that would lead them all to death. He would murder more of them. He didn't care what would happen to them, so he took them around a curve, which as shown, and he would kill them all. Later relocations were named after the Cherokees' deaths by death marches. The trail was created in 1987. It's already a 2,200 mile, 3,500 kilometer trail, and it was authorized by federal law to track this trail and name it the Trail of Tears National Trail, where you can walk it.
The trail passed through Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, Illinois, and Arkansas. The artwork used to remember the Trail of Tears was by Tony Anderson. He was a Cherokee artist. It was called the Commemorative Medallion. And the literature work used to remember the Trail of Tears was by Jerry Ellis, his book was called Walking the Trail. This consisted of Jerry walking through the Trail of Tears himself, explaining his and the Cherokees' feelings of their sufferment.
And those were the only monumental main remembrances of the Trail of Tears.